Good afternoon. My name is Omar Miranda, and I am going to be presenting on a cultural immersion experience into Islam and Muslim culture. This is for CEFS 504 for the School of Behavioral Sciences, Department of Counselor Education and Family Studies at Liberty University. And pardon me, I'll be looking at my monitor to be able to read my notes. So you will have to look at me. Well, the four key elements learned from research is what we will be discussing. We will also be discussing the historical and current oppression of chosen population, which is Muslims. Summary of 2 events and 3 key things that were learned. Summary of agency organization interview. Summary of individual interview, a summary of my experience, and a discussion of specific and practical application to counseling. The 4 key elements I learned from my research was one of the most important aspects of Muslim identity is the family. Islamic tradition and Muslim societies are family and community oriented. That's just Rahi and Arnold, 2018. The second thing I learned was Muslim Americans represent a community that is ethnically and racially diverse, yet bound by a shared religious tradition that shapes them, and that's Padella and Zaidi, 2018. I will say this, I'm not going to be reading everything specifically from every slide. I will let you read those slides more specifically. But I'm only going to be focused on the highlights. The third key element I learned from my research is that Islam is not only a religion, but also an absolute and comprehensive way of life, governing the relationship between a human being and the Creator, or what they term Allah, A-L-L-A-H, as well as the relationships among each other. It prescribes values and actions within the individual, family, and social realms. And that is Salim and Martin, 2018. And the last thing I learned was by 2050, Islam is expected to be the second most common religion after Christianity in the United States. Ali et al., 2019. The next thing I want to talk about is the historical and current oppression of Muslims. Although Muslims are often lampooned as followers of a monolithic belief system lacking in complexity and reduced to a homogeneous group that supposedly espouses values incompatible with Western civilization, Islam is a vibrant 1400-year-old religion that has seen different forms since its inception. That's just Rahi and Arnold, 2018. Today, Muslims are one of the most ethnically and culturally heterogeneous groups, with adherents hailing from all continents, belonging to most major racial groups and speaking a myriad of languages, is just Rahi and Arnold, 2018. Muslims have been part of North American society prior to the establishment of the United States, as many immigrated early on or were brought on slave ships from Africa, while others became Muslims in North America and have no ethnic connection to the East. Just Rahi and Arnold, 2018. Despite this diversity, many reported anti-Muslim hate crimes in North America are perpetrated against those who are readily identifiable as Muslims. This includes Middle Eastern-looking men and women wearing a hijab. The hijab is the dress code, including a headscarf and loose clothing, many times extending to the wrists and ankles. The fact that hate crimes are committed against Arab Christians and Sikh, S-I-K-H, Sikh men who are thought to be Muslims due to their appearance demonstrates how fear of the unknown motivates such attacks and exposes anti-Muslim hate as a form of racism. Just Rahi and Arnold, 2018. Arab clients have to cope with issues of culture clash, assimilation, marginalization, and related issues of diversity in a culture, also facing potentially unique issues such as the stigma against addressing mental health needs, understanding the counseling relationship, and significant language barriers. That's Snow, Harishand, and Mwenda, 2021. Research indicates that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the USA. That's Ahmed and Scott 2022. And according to the Council on American Islamic Relations, there are about 7 million Muslims living in the USA. Ahmed and Scott 2022. Researchers reported that U.S. Muslims are more likely to experience mental health issues than any other minority group due to the psychosocial challenges they encounter, yet these individuals are consistently underserved. Ahmed and Scott 2022. Islamophobia is simultaneously a very old and a very new phenomenon. The word itself was introduced only in the 1980s, becoming mainstream following the attacks of September 11, 2001. That's Jones et al. 2019. Those who popularized this concept, however, recognize that it describes centuries-old hostilities, and with interest in the concept being spurred by the War on Terror, analysis of contemporary trends has been dominated by the impact of secularization on Muslims' rights and engagement with Western states. Jones et al. 2019. Only a third of Arab Americans are Muslim, in fact. Most are Christian. Over half of American Muslims are not Arabs. They may be African American or come from diverse ethnic or racial groups from around the globe. Excuse me. I apologize, I'm dealing with allergies. Interestingly, many Jewish and Christian clergy and congregations have strongly allied with Islamic faith communities in welcoming Muslim refugees and supporting their resettlement. McGoldrick Hardy, Editors, 2019. Now I'm going to talk about the summary of the two events I attended and the three key things I learned in each. Event number one, I attended a prayer service at a mosque and a community educational center called the Jumah Prayer, Jumah, on Friday, June 3rd, 2022 at 1 p.m. Friday is like Sunday. It's like a holy day. It's like Sunday for most Christians, or Saturday for some Christian denominations. The teacher was Imam Talib Sharif, and Imam, IMM, is the term they use for like their pastor or their teacher. Was Imam Talib Sharif, and the topic was Kawthar, Kawthar, or given abundance, prosperity, and posterity for our successors. The word posterity or Kawthar means the abundant good which Allah gave to him, that is the Prophet Muhammad, and the Prophet Muhammad is the main prophet that was given visions from Allah in the writings of Islam. The purpose of this verse in the Quran, which is like the Muslim holy book, one of the Muslim holy books, was to strengthen the Prophet's determination and also to boost the resolve of the Muslim community by reminding them of their Lord's promise. The three things that I learned about this culture in these events that wasn't reflected in my research, that they are serious about education and personal positive development, or they are very reverent and about all things related to expressing their religion, and they believe in service, kindness, and compassion to all, even one's enemies. The second event I attended was a specific community educational service about Islam at a mosque and a community educational center for the Quran on a Tuesday night. The instructor was Imam Kashif Aziz. It was well attended and packed, really. More specifically, it was entitled The Significance of Dua, D-U-A, which is the belief, Dua is the belief that all Muslims, that is the belief of all Muslims that Allah is the sole purveyor and creator of all things on earth, and that He gives all things to all people. There was a strong focus on the fact that the level of blessing and return on your blessing was focused on your level of works. And it sounded a lot like Buddhist belief of karma. In my estimation, there are a lot of similarities between Islam and Buddhism. That was surprising to me. The three things that I learned about this event that wasn't reflected in my prior research was, number one, I realized that this mosque, as well as The first mosque is focused on community development and serving the community. Number two, I realized that this mosque is very focused on informing others about Islam first. But secondly, and just as equally as important, I think it is the Muslim culture and what makes it different and unique. They're really focused on educating people and kind of breaking down those negative stereotypes. And number three, I realized that this belief system is a totally focused acts religion, opposite from my own spiritual belief of Christianity, which is a grace-based religion. My organization interview was with Al Farouk, Farook Masjid, which is Masjid, M-A-S-J-I-D, is the Islamic term for mosque. And this was in Atlanta, Georgia, with an interview with a Dr. Khalid Sadiq. He's the Education and Community Director for the Al Farouk Masjid. The purpose statement of the agency is a place of worship, and it serves to interact with the community at large and educate them about Islam. The goals and the mission include serving the best interests of Islam and needs of Muslim community and of Metro Atlanta, helping the international Muslim community of Atlanta to carry out activities. Number three, providing a place of worship to carry on religious, educational, or other Islamic activities. Number four, presenting Islam to the followers of other faiths and promoting goodwill between Muslims and non-Muslims. Number five, performing last prayer for the deceased members of the Islamic faith. And number six, assisting the Muslim community in all forms of local Islamic needs, such as guidance on marriages, ceremonies, funeral arrangements, and burial services. The services that are offered to the identified public are prayers 5 times daily, congregational prayers, or Jumu'ah, J-U-M-U-A-A, on Friday, the religious teaching, marriages, and counseling for Muslim community on the 5 core teachings of Islam, as well as the 5 pillars of Islam. They run a K through 12 school. They do cemeteries. They have a cemetery and they do funerals. And they also provide educational training and answer questions for the community and interact with the community. The members of the population are made aware of available services through a pretty significant website that covers a whole host of information and answers a lot of questions. Is a first line of communication and contact with the community. They're also made aware of services through the Muslim culture as they are trained as children in their respective families. They know that all Muslims know that all mosques provide those basic services that this specific mosque provides. And then they also do local community advertising, such as local radio, printed ads and magazines and newspapers and flyers in the community. The areas of greatest need for the agency, but also within the population, are A, to provide services to the religious services to the Muslim community for the practice of the faith, B, to provide education to the community at large related to Islam and the Muslim culture, as well as to provide community service to the community at large. Some of the more significant challenges for this population that are served, Atlanta has historically been having issues with something called urban sprawl, which is basically explosive and uncontrolled population growth. Within the Muslim community, the Muslims know that the services are there, and they know that this specific mosque provides those services. But for the community at large, they still are largely biased and have a lot of negative beliefs and misrepresentations of Islam and Muslim people. The last challenge in Islam is to engage the youth in Islam and keep them engaged. What is the importance? This is the individual interview that I'm going to be covering now. The first question is, I asked, what is the importance of social justice within the agency? I'm sorry, no. This is still the summary of the Al Farouk Masjid interview. And I asked the question about the importance of social justice within the agency. The response was the teachings of Islam and the attitudes and appreciation of certain principles, especially in the area of justice, social justice and fairness, are strong and clear based on the strong teaching of the Quran. The individual I spoke with was Dr. Khalid Sadiq. Originally, he was a born Muslim and has been a Muslim his entire life. He was born in Pakistan and came to the U.S. in 1977. When he was young, he went to school in Karachi, in India, and went to a Catholic school in Pakistan. And he studied there and became a physician in Pakistan. He did postgraduate degrees in England, Canada, and the U.S., internal medicine and endocrinology, and he taught at Emory University in Atlanta and was there for 10 years. And he presently works at a large family practice as well as an endocrinology practice in Atlanta. He's been with the mosque in Atlanta since 1980, when he became the educational and community director. The experience of being different for him from the majority culture, he really didn't experience much difference in England and in Canada, but he experienced the most difference when he was in the United States. He really felt like the key cultural events were when Malcolm X was on the scene, when he made a splash with the popular culture, as well as a professional boxer, Cassius Clay, changed his name to Muhammad Ali, specifically when Cassius Clay was basically kicked out of being a professional boxer for not following the draft, as well as when Malcolm X was assassinated. He remembers that as a child. He remembers the challenges of fighting misperceptions of Islam for people who are foremost critics of Islam, for people who have no interactions with Islam and get their information from the popular culture or the media. He has wonderful memories of, as a child, of Ramadan, which is their month-long fast that they have throughout the day, and they break their fast when the sun goes down. And he remembers amazing food and having friends and family over. Ramadan for many followers of Islam is very much like Christmas or Easter or Hanukkah for Jews. It was like a party every night for a month. As he shared his story, I was amazed at how similar his experiences were akin to mine. I'm Puerto Rican, and my Hispanic culture is very much like that of Muslims, which is very parent-oriented, respect-oriented, family group-oriented. Based on the interview experience, what knowledge about this did I learn? And initially, I was amazed at the strong focus and the apparent dichotomy on the strength of the community and the family orientation of the Muslim culture, but the strong focus on the fact that the individual and not the mosque is ultimately totally responsible for the health and strength of their faith. Secondly, I didn't expect that the specific socioeconomic issues unique to the Metro Atlanta area were going to be so impactful upon both how Islam was and is practiced, as well as the mosque does outreach to the local area. I learned that education is very important to Islam and to Muslims, and they believe that people are going to be held responsible for how they use their gifts. What has changed for me as a result of having this immersion experience was I have certainly become significantly more aware of my own covert biases, as well as the propaganda that popular culture, even how so-called unbiased news journalists cover stories. I've just really become more aware and more focused on advocating for this subculture. And I really enjoyed learning about this, specifically the specific and practical applications to counseling Western psychotherapy is at times ineffective for Muslims because its individualistic, fragmented method is contrary to Muslims' holistic spiritual approach to life. Salim and Martin, 2018. Misunderstanding the influence of Muslim clients' Islamic faith, beliefs, and values may lead to the provision of mental health services that reflect Western values, lifestyle, and culture, and leave clients feeling stigmatized and alienated. In fact, in times of distress, many people use religious coping, Salim and Martin, 2018. And Muslim clients commonly use prayer to calm themselves down, and they typically turn to their imam, Salim and Martin, 2018. What has been shown to be most effective are cognitive behavior therapy, integrative therapy approaches, and Rogerian person-centered therapy. Empathy is foundational for counseling skills such as validation and presence for the success of the therapeutic alliance. And a multi-dimensional approach should be used that includes using models of counseling that support both individualism and relational context have also been shown to be successful in counseling Muslims. That's Hayes and Erford, 2017. Cognitive, behavioral, existential, humanistic, family therapy, and feminist models should be considered in working with Muslims. Hayes and Erford, 2017. And best practices when working with clients of Arab descent, including engaging community and family member involvement as much as possible. Additionally, Western counseling approaches like insight-based strategies may be beneficial for Arab Americans who are more acculturated, but Americans as a group tend to prefer solution-focused, cognitive behavioral, or other pragmatic or practical interventions. Hayes and Erford, 2017. Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to review this information with you. I hope you've been as blessed by learning the information as I have through this process.